Hello, fellow gypsies and spiritual wanderers. Mocha Gypsy here. And tonight, I decided to do something a little different. Start a new series called Uncovering the Unseen, which I basically share my insights on certain videos and materials. And, we just hang out and we have a discussion and a Q&A. And towards the end, the last segment, I take a few psychic readings. Uh, the first three, around the first three callers or folks who message me. All right, so I'm going to put here in the chat my phone number, and you can call me. The first three people to call and leave a text or a message that they want a reading, I'll get back to you at the last segment to do your reading, one question each. Of course, donations are always welcome. Okay. So there's my number, 605-223-5816. All right, so we're going to get right into it. So what we're going to discuss tonight is the divine feminine and plasma. And to me, this was like a discovery because I discovered some other channels discussing this topic that just completely blew my mind and it made sense. And basically, what plasma is, okay, there are four forms of elements that makes up this whole reality, okay? And we learned this, most of us learned this in elementary school, okay? Solid, liquid, gas, and then we have plasma, okay? And it turns out that plasma is basically the thing of the world of the spirit, okay? It's also what our sun is made out of, what the stars are made out of. It's also in our blood. And according to some of the people I follow, it's also the part of the God that is within us, and also happens to be the feminine aspect of God. So anyhow, let me go into show you guys a few clips. It's good to just start with the basics. What is plasma? A physicist explains, and this is going to be very nuts and bolts.
What is plasma? What is the role of plasma in nuclear fusion?
So plasma is a phase of matter or state of matter. So unfortunately, our schools don't. It's like, I'm not sure why this is the case, but all children learn the three phases of matter, right? So, and what does this mean? So we'll take water as an example. So if it's cold, it's ice. It's in a solid phase, right? And then if you heat it up, it's the temperature that typically sets the phase. Although it's not only temperature. So you heat it up and you go to a liquid, and obviously it changes its physical properties because you can pour it and so forth, right? And then if you heat this up enough, it turns into a gas, and a gas behaves differently because there's a very sudden change in the density. Actually, that's what's happening. So it changes by about a factor of 10,000 in density from the liquid phase into when you make it into steam at atmospheric pressure. All very good. Except the problem is they forgot, like, what happens if you just keep elevating the temperature.
You don't want to give kids ideas. They're going to start experimenting. They're going to start heating up the gas.
It's good to start anyway. So it turns out that once you get above, it's approximately 5 or 10,000 degrees Celsius, then you hit a new phase of matter. And actually, that's the phase of matter that is for pretty much all the temperatures that are above that as well too. And so what does that mean? So it actually changes phase. So it's a different state of matter. And the reason that it becomes a different state of matter is that it's hot enough that what happens is that the atoms that make up, remember, go back to Feynman, right? Everything's made up of these individual things, these atoms. But atoms can actually themselves be, which are made of nuclei, which contain the positive particles and the neutrons, and then the electrons, which are very, very light, very much less mass than the nucleus, and that surround us. This is what makes up an atom. So a plasma is what happens when you start pulling away enough of those electrons that they're free from the ions. So almost all the atoms that make up us up and this water and all that, the electrons are in tightly bound states, and basically they're extremely stable. Once you're at about 5,000 or 10,000 degrees, you start pulling off the electrons. And what this means is that now the medium that is there, its constituent particles mostly have net charge on them. So why does that matter? It's because now this means that the particles can interact through their electric charge. In some sense, they were when it was in the atoms, but now that they're free particles, this means that it fundamentally changes the behavior. It doesn't behave like a gas. It doesn't behave like a solid or a liquid. It behaves like a plasma, right? And so why is it disappointing that we don't speak about this? It's because 99% of the universe is in the plasma state. It's called stars. And in fact, our own sun, at the center of the sun is what clearly a plasma, but actually the surface of the sun, which is around 5,500 Celsius, is also a plasma. Because it's hot enough that is that. In fact, the things that you see, sometimes you see these pictures from the surface of the sun, amazing, like satellite photographs of like those big arms of things and of light coming off of the surface of the sun and solar flares. Those are plasmas.
What are some interesting ways that this fourth state of matter is different than gas?
Let's go to how a gas works, right? So the reason a gas, and it goes back to Feynman's brilliance in saying that this is the most important concept. The reason actually solid, liquid, and gas phases work is because the nature of the interaction between the atoms changes. And so in a gas, you can think of this as being this room, and the things, although you can't see them, is that the molecules are flying around, but then with some frequency, they basically bounce into each other. And when they bounce into each other, they exchange momentum and energy around on this. And so it turns out that the probability and the distances and the scattering of those of what they do, it's those interactions that set the about how a gas behaves. So what do you mean by this? Well, so for example, if I take an imaginary test particle of some kind, like I spray something into the air that's got a particular color. In fact, you can do it in liquids as well too. Like how it gradually will disperse away from you. This is fundamentally set because of the way that those particles are bouncing into each other.
Probabilities of those
The rate that they go at and the distance that they go at and so forth. So this was figured out by Einstein and others at the beginning of the Brownian motion, all these kinds of things. These were set up at the beginning of the last century, and it was really like this great revelation. Wow, this is why matter behaves the way that it does. Like, wow. But it's really like, and also in liquids and in solids, like what really matters is how you're interacting with your nearest neighbor. So you think about that one. The gas particles are basically going around until they actually hit into each other. Though they don't really exchange information. And it's the same in a liquid. You're kind of beside each other, but you can kind of move around. In a solid, you're literally like stuck beside your neighbor. You can't move. Like, man. Plasmas are weird in the sense is that it's not like that. So, and it's because the particles have electric charge. This means that they can push against each other without actually being in close proximity to each other. That's not an infinitely true statement, which it's a little bit more technical, but basically this means that you can start having action or exchange of information at a distance. And that's in fact the definition of a plasma, that it says this have a technical name. It's called a Coulomb collision. It just means that it's dictated by this force which is being pushed between the charged particles. is that the definition of a plasma is a medium in which the collective behavior is dominated by these collisions at a distance. So you can imagine then this starts to give you some strange behaviors.
Okay, guys, so I'm just going to step in right here. All right, I'm not going to pretend to know a whole lot about science or physics, quantum mechanics. But it sounds to me this is why plasma, from what he's describing, its weird behaviors and how it's able to communicate, that those particles are able to communicate with each other at a distance, would explain a lot as to why plasma is the substance of the spirit and the medium of the spirit. Would explain a lot of how ghosts are able to move through walls, how we're able to be communicated to, telepathy, psychic phenomenon, be able to communicate with the dead, be able to see things from other dimensions, and things from other dimensions able to see us, things of that nature, because this is the nuts and bolts of that stuff, that weirdness, that strangeness that he's talking about when he describes the nature of plasma in our 5D reality, how that could be an exception to the other elements, liquid, gas, and solid, how it's so much different than that. When we see angels and aliens, those plasmoid things that we've seen in the sky a couple of months ago, it would explain a lot.
Which I could quickly talk about. Like, for example, one of the most counterintuitive ones is as plasmas get more hot, as they get higher in temperature, then the collisions happen less frequently. It's like what? That doesn't make any sense. When particles go faster, you think they would collide more often. But because the particles are interacting through their electric field, when they're going faster, they actually spend less time in the influential field of each other, and so they talk to each other less in an energy and momentum exchange point of view. It's just one of the counterintuitive aspects of plasmas,
which is probably very relevant for nuclear fusion.
Yes, exactly.
See, they're talking about like nuclear fusion and its 5D applications. Since this guy is like a hardcore scientist, he's not going to recognize or even think to look at the spiritual, paranormal, supernatural side to what he just explained. Okay. So he's just going to look at it from that, that 5D Newtonian physics point of view, materialist point of view. But if you were to look through everything he's saying through spiritual eyes, it actually explains a lot about how we interact with the supernatural world, with the psychic world, with our own intuition. When we get feelings, it even can explain our very visceral connection to God. Or intuition, when someone says, I could feel it in my blood or feel it in my bones. Well, there's plasma there, a different type of plasma, but it's still plasma. There's different types of plasma. So, anyhow, let me show you another video. I'm so grateful that I found this woman's channel. She's also on TikTok. Her name is Dana Kipple. And she's the one who has turned me on to this concept of plasma and the role that it plays in our universe and in spirituality. And she's actually working on a book that's going to explain all of this and how you can also just use it to actually manifest. It is truly the stuff of magic, and it's fascinating. So here's some of what she has to say.
Okay, this is my favorite subject ever. Get ready. I'm going to tell you why this Sumerian goddess Inanna is a secret message that has been literally hidden for years that is telling you that you can harness the power of the universe. And I'm going to tell you what that power is and how you can read her symbols and her name to harness that power. I'm also going to tell you what it has to do with interdimensional communication. This is not a drill. Okay, first things first, just to get you acquainted, this mysterious power of the universe, I'm going to call it plasma. You can replace that with any word you want, energy, ki, magic, but you'll see why I'm using this word and why it's crazy. So plasma is the fourth state of matter. It can be a solid, liquid, or gas, as well as an ionized gas. It also, you can refer to it as blood plasma. That's a different plasma, yes, but they have very similar properties. You might know plasma as the aurora borealis, lightning, the plasma ball. I'm going to tell you why it's literal magic and the secret of everything. Number one, the universe is made of 99.9% of plasma. I actually think it's made of 100% plasma, just in different states. Inanna here, why I think she's connected with it is, okay, you see these bubbles right here? Yes, they're a symbol of wisdom, but it's also a Taurus. There's the apple face right there. Oh, and here's another one. Oh, and by the way, this is plasma in a lab. She is harnessing this power, you guys. It is hidden in plain sight. There's a reason that owls symbolize the wise, and it's feminine, the divine feminine, the field, baby. Also, not for nothing, but since we're talking about blood plasma very quick, the CIA studied blood plasma. There was even talks of like interdimensional communication and blood plasma. And to make it even more entertaining, Nikola Tesla, who literally worked with plasma, but he called it luminiferous ether or radiant matter, which everyone claimed didn't exist. It does. It literally got turned into the quantum field and they move things around. I promise you that will come out. But Nikola Tesla even talked about interplanetary communication and how he knew the secret to it and how to reach other worlds in the future. And he was studying plasma. So also you see that she's holding the horizon in her hands. This is basically her harnessing the power of plasma, of the sun and the earth, of the in-between. She is rooted, but she flows. Victoria Woolf, I think, wrote that. The power of the horizon between plasma. I do a whole video on the horizon. But it literally makes the sun and the earth, I promise you, it's plasma. But what makes the power that makes worlds is inside of us, blood plasma. And yes, scientists, I know it's different, but it's not different. It is literally in our face, as above, so below, that the power outside of us is also inside of us. And she is telling you, you can harness it and yes, you should be grounded in the animalistic earth world of wisdom, but you should also have wings.
Okay, so she cut that off pretty quickly. I totally agree when she's talking about how you need to be grounded when you're communicating with the spiritual world, or doing anything that's outside of the 5D. I remember when I first started doing angelic magic several years ago, when I first started into that journey, there's a soul meditation with the Kabbalistic magic I do. It's called the stillness. And basically, just in short, what that does, and I didn't know it at the time, it takes you out of both space and time. Okay. And it catapulted me it catapulted me into like a higher plane. I did not understand it because right after I did that, my hands and feet were tingling and my head was detached from my body. You know that feeling that you get when you take too much Benadryl? Tingling all over, tingling in my hands, tingling in my feet, detached head. That's how I was for almost 24 hours. Okay? Because I was basically happy doing that exercise. But anyhow, let's look at what else she has to say about this, about plasma, the thing of magic, the thing of the psychic world.
So why is plasma the secret magic of the universe and like no one's heard of it? So everyone says that consciousness is everything. But how could consciousness experience itself if it's everything? It needs a mirror. It needs something to feed back with. It needs a clay to mold. And plasma, the fourth state of matter, is that clay to mold. It's not only scientific, it is metaphysical. It's the divine feminine that has literally been suppressed for thousands of years because it is paradoxical and it has its own wild intelligence, and that's scary for very logical people. Because once we realize that we're co-creating with an intelligence, we lose full control. But the cool part about that is you know for a fact that a lot of the stuff you wanted a few years ago, thank God you didn't get. Because it wouldn't have put you to where you are now. It could have brought you somewhere worse. And the reason you don't always get what you want is because that intelligence knows what's best for you. It has access to all past, present, and future timelines. And it was like, well, I'm not going to let her be with that guy because then she's going to end up here and this is not her full potential destiny. So thank you, plasma. This divine feminine intelligence, this plasma, also proves everything we believe is true. All religions, all stories. Our belief is what makes it true. The more people that believe it, the more true it is. It can validate anything. And I don't know about you, but choosing what I want to believe is pretty cool. It's like a grab bag. I can pick any religion, any culture, any mythology. What is also so cool is that you can apply any teaching to plasma. It just makes it more tangible. For instance, if it's Joe Dispenza, Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson, Rupert Sheldrake, anyone who has their own teachings, because all of us have our own perspectives, plasma is beautiful because it just proves that the teachings you're using, if you believe them, are working because they're interfacing with plasma, with this misty, invisible living ether. I like it can be applied to it. It lets me change ideas when I want to, believe in something new. If you're not growing or changing, you're stagnant, and stagnance is death. Anyways, I've had a beautiful relationship with this plasma. Rather than calling it God, I would call it like a divine feminine intelligence or an energy, basically a supportive friend that is always with your consciousness, and that you can reach a God or higher consciousness by being in relationship with this beautiful substance. If this spoke to you, I'm writing a book on this and all about the mythology and how to use plasma intelligence to like astral project and go to multidimensional places and realities and just live a way cooler life. The link is in my bio, and I have a whole plasma intelligence playlist on my YouTube if you want to know more. Bye.
Okay, yeah. So you see her hinting there about the plasma being the feminine principle, being the divine feminine. She gets more into detail, and I'll show that video in a moment. And she also, it's interesting that she also mentions, one of the people that she mentions is Joe Dispenza, and it's his energy. He has a meditation called The Blessing of the Energy Centers. And that's what I use for my meditations. That's the one that allows me to see dead people unintentionally, including my grandfather. Some of you already know about that. But that's also the meditation that people use to physically heal. Okay. Joe Dispenza, for those of you who don't know his story, he broke his back in a horrible accident from top to bottom and didn't want to take a risky surgery. And through his own meditations, connecting to the other side, he healed his back just with the power of his mind and the connection to that other side. And she's talking about the plasma. I'm wondering, and it sounds like she's actually talking about dark energy, from which this whole universe has come from, that was brought forth from, and that is definitely feminine in nature and bringing forth. It's also the reason why many of us believe that God is female or the creator is female. And for those of you who are familiar with Shira 7, the sprinkle lady, she's also known as a Shira star goddess. Shira star goddess. She has another channel. Okay, it's not all about getting a rich husband and stuff. She has a whole other channel that's devoted to magic and the spiritual. And she has a book called Manifesting with Dark Energy. And to me, that's groundbreaking, because basically in that book, she teaches you how to manifest faster and stronger by connecting to the dark energy, which is basically, it's basically pre-creation. It's, imagine the universe that we live in, and then picture what's beyond that darkness, that void, that womb, that dark womb of nothingness, from which that's all creative dark energy that everything emanates from. Okay. I think this lady here is talking about the same thing, and she's just calling it plasma. I'm thinking that plasma and this dark energy that is Shira Star Goddess, Shira 7, are talking about the same thing. And here's the thing. This dark energy, when you go to it with your consciousness, it's also regenerative. It's also very healing. So when you go into there, I belong to Shira's group. This was many years ago. And me and the other ladies were comparing notes. There were women who had gray hairs that were coming in back dark, like when they were young again. With me, I had a compressed disc in my very last vertebrae that was very, very painful. And I just went to the dark energy. I did her exercises that Ashera instructed. My consciousness, I went over to that dark side, dark matter, dark energy of creation, just for the heck of it. And the side effect was my back was healed. Okay. So this is all the same stuff. And it's now that we're in a time that science is actually backing up the magic, what the mystics have been talking about all these centuries. And now we get to apply it in a practical and scientific way. Anyhow, let me look into the comments, see who's here so far. Hi, Keishawn. She says, thank you for sharing this information. I never knew this. You're very welcome, Keishawn. Yeah, I mean, I guess this is stuff that I always kind of knew about, but I just didn't fully acknowledge it. That there was something in the air, something in our dimension that connects to the other side, into the universe and everything, but I just didn't have the language for it. And it's really neat. Knowledge is increasing. This is what the age of Aquarius is all about. Everything is being revealed, and it's wonderful. Okay. So here's the next thing I'm going to show is she makes the connection with the divine feminine, and basically, in so many words, God is female, or we should say basically God is feminine in nature.
Do you know that there are people in history that believe that God himself was a secondary power to the Divine Mother, the source of life, Sophia? And also, I have a theory what Sophia actually is. And she's not an actual person. She is plasma. Yes, plasma, the fourth state of matter, the ionized gas. Trust me, I will explain. This is a deep dive. Get ready. And why this is so interesting is because Sophia means wisdom, and plasma is wisdom. And if you can learn to connect to this plasma field, this wisdom, Sophia, the mother, divine mother, your life will change. Okay, here we go. Okay, please stay with me. This is going to be really interesting. We're going to start with the comparisons here. So I'm going to call God consciousness, and then plasma is the mother or source of life. The first thing is that they said that God was the co-creator that created with Sophia, who came first. This would mean, in theory, that consciousness came after plasma. So think of plasma as the clay that was here first, the matrix, the mother, and it's being molded by our consciousness. This is the true power that has been here since the beginning of time. This is the wisdom. Consciousness is more ego or perspective that we all have that molds this wisdom, but we could plug into this wisdom. Okay, it says, for within her is a spirit intelligent. So Robert Temple writes, plasma exhibits features that suggest they may be in some sense alive. Clouds of plasma have evolved double helixes, blah, 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 that may generate an intelligence similar to machine intelligence. We may, in fact, been looking for an extraterrestrial life in the wrong place. This is Robert Temple. He made the book A New Signs of Heaven, all about plasma being intelligent. Okay, unique, manifold, and subtle. Let's start with the subtle energy. The best kind of detectors reported to pick up subtle energy are actually plasma-based subtle energy. Also interesting, manifold. Not only is it the sum of particulars, which are individuals furnished by a sense before that they've been unified by the synthesis of understanding, intelligent plasma, but also think of it as branching into several openings, almost like a fractal. Actually, in computer programs, they call this thing a plasma fractal. Basically, it's the plasma effect that's produced when applied. So, like, how do I explain this? In whatever program this is, when they're trying to make something more fluid or more fractalized, they literally call it the plasma effect because, guys, plasma is fractal. It is reflective. You can apply your consciousness on a plasma and it will literally feedback loop with your consciousness. This is how we all learn. This is how we experience life. Plasma literally lets consciousness experience itself. Otherwise, consciousness would not have a mirror. Think of plasma as the mirror, but it's an intelligent mirror. Just like the Akashic field, I think it's the same thing. Plasma is a higher perspective. It is wisdom. It knows everything, past, present, future. And plugging into this, or your soul, or your heart's wisdom, this is the key to life. This is connecting with yourself. You are plasma. And when we're connected to this, we can make the right decisions. Not the right decision, but the decision that will lead to the most fulfilled life, the most calm and peace and love. Here's a little thing that shows you plasma power. Here's another subtle energy, plasma state of matter. And since I just spoke about the Akashic field, Akasha in Sanskrit means ether. Ether is another word for plasma. Also, in Gnosticism, Sophia is a feminine figure analogous, the same as the human soul. I'm telling you guys, our soul is made of plasma. It's made of wisdom. The only thing that really our consciousness and our ego, but we can use our ego or our consciousness. We don't have to kill it. We can use it as a tool. Because we tool with our heart, this is how we actually feedback with this plasma, and we can evolve and experience. That's the meaning of life. Easier said than done. I'm still learning to do this. Connect with this. Like, yes, books are great, but we forget all the stuff that I'm saying. If we learn how to actually plug into this to ourselves, we'll always have the answers. Yes, they're in our plasma. You getting this? It's so simple, right? Sophia! Plasma! Some people all bioplasma is mutually interacting, interconnected fields and possibly in negative charged particles and we're the organic semiconductor. Bioplasma is aura, it's our soul. And they're interconnected fields because it's where our consciousness, and then the outside layer, our soul, is where consciousness is interacting and filtered through. So the inner plasma interacts with the outer plasma, and our consciousness is the membrane. I hope that makes sense. Just picture you are the DNA, just like the cell, and then you have mitochondria, and then the outside, this is the membrane. Your inner plasma, and then outer plasma. The only separation between us and this thing is our consciousness. We are actually all one. We are plasma. Get it? We're just individualized by literally our membrane or our consciousness is what individualizes us and gives us. Sorry, I get so excited. We can learn for this bigger grandmother spider. It's also mobile, incisive, unsullied, invulnerable, paradoxical plasma. It's kind of like the force of nature. It's very neutral. It's good or bad depending on what we think. but it also friendly to human beings. Like, it is benevolent. Like, it wants you to succeed. It's literally like a grandparent, like grandmother spider in mythology. It wants mistakes. It's not going to stop you. Like, it can give you a subtle nudge, but plasma dreams for you. Plasma has your destiny set out, and if you have your heart, you'll hear it. And here's the really interesting part. She pervades and permeates all things. She's the breath of power of God. She renews the world. Here we go. Okay, pervading all. So animism is a belief that everything possesses a spiritual essence, literally plasma, for wisdom or Sophia. In science, there's something called quark glue on plasma, which is literally inside of atoms. Like, it's plasma makes everything. Everything comes from plasma. It goes back to plasma. Especially where it says generation after generation, passing in holy souls. That feels like a big Akashic field to me, where our ancestors are. And then she makes them into God's friends and prophets. This is when evolved to angels. These are selves. I don't know if it's our higher self, family, star family, you want to call it, but it.
Okay. Right about those plasmoids being an elevated part of us. But in simpler terms, that's us without this flesh body. That's basically us without our human shell, this flesh suit, basically. Let me see what else she has to say. Things are probably sounding a little bit weird because my computer is actually overheating a little. So sorry, guys. Sorry about that. There's so much more that I want to get through, but this might be the last thing I'll show, and maybe I'll do like a part 2, maybe tomorrow or something. We'll see. Let's see if we can get through this. Okay, maybe not.
It's
Oh, here we
spirits
go.
that guide us. I'm sure you've had these experiences. More splendid than the sun. The sun is plasma. Basically, like more plasma. Okay, being with God before creation, the master worker through whom God created, like clay, plasma, consciousness, through this. Sorry, I'm so excited. My heart's beating so fast because I just love this. Filling all that is. Literally in Greek means to mold. Plasma fills in the mother of all good things. Yes. Lastly, Sophia plasma. By the way, this is goddess I'm talking about. I can literally with Mary Magdalene, with Inanna, Isis. I can go all day with this. Literally. So our soul is 5 layers, and they call them sheaths. Like, in science, plasma has sheaths. Like, literally, plasma sheaths. It's our soul about renewing the world, or like being plasma being, or Sophia being regenerative. Plasma therapy, regenerative medicine. I could go on forever. I'm sleepy. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive, made you curious. Plasma is, don't ask me why I have this knowledge or why I'm obsessed with it. It's my destiny. I love plasma. There's a free PDF in my bio if you subscribe.
Yeah, so basically, yes, it is the feminine. And notice how she talks about consciousness is what basically creates the vessel for the plasma, the feminine principle, to work through or work with. Consciousness meaning the masculine principle, the masculine aspect of God. As she mentioned earlier in that clip, that Okay, there's God as we know him, right? And she says, but he may be secondary. He is likely to be secondary to the feminine aspect, plasma. And that's the darkness that I mentioned before, the pre-creation. That's what I call the pre-creation. And even the Holy Bible supports this. I know that, if any like hardcore Christians hear me say this, especially if they're male, are gonna take issue with this. But even the Holy Bible supports this, because what does it say in Genesis? The first lines. In the beginning there was darkness and everything was void. That's feminine. That's the womb of creation, which everything comes forth. And then there was light, the masculine. That's the light. And I don't think it's a coincidence in Asian cultures that they see black as feminine and white as masculine. In Western culture, we kind of like switched that around somehow, that anything light and bright is feminine. Maybe because, this culture has a preference for blonde women or light-skinned women, or, maybe, and wearing the white dress for your wedding and, all that whole thing. Maybe that's why. And dark is seen as masculine, that we kind of like did a little bit of a switcheroo, but in actuality, it's the darkness is feminine and the light is masculine. Where the light is, everything is overt, in your face. It divides, it organizes, it creates the infrastructure. Where darkness is mysterious, it's chaotic, it's without form, it's the void. It's raw energy, unmanaged and wild. And then when it's meets with the masculine gives it organization. It gives it form and organization. So good stuff, guys. It's good stuff. I just want to show this one. I'll show the other video at another time where she really into the masculine and feminine. But the interesting photo that I came on Facebook, I'll show it. Let me see though. And it's a little bit about, it's a little bit of world events, right? And it's occultic. All right. So Trump's high-level peace talks. U.S. and Russia agree to work towards ending the war. This is on Pamela Geller's page. And this was from February 19th. Okay, so we have this room full of world leaders. All right, representatives. Here's the, Marco Rubio representing us. And we have some guys here, Saudi Arabia. And here they are in this big room, these big masculine men making decisions that are going to influence the course of the world for good or for bad. Okay. They're wearing dark suits. They're all serious. These are our leaders out, right? You see, look all around here. Beauty and femininity. See beautiful flower arrangements, soft colors, right? Don't forget, these guys are killers. I'm not just pointing out to Saudi Arabia. I'm just, world leaders, they didn't get to where they got to be by being nice, right? Here in this room here, okay, in this beautiful feminine-like room where they're making their decisions and talking with each other. What does that look like over here, guys? Is that an eye? That's an eye. The eye of Providence. But even more important, you can kind of make out what type of room they're in by up here. They're in a dome. They're in a room that has a dome above it, like the state capitol, and just about every state capitol, including Washington, D.C., you see a dome. That represents the feminine energy. That's occultic, to draw in feminine power. And usually when you see a building with a dome, like a state capitol or something like that, and I learned this from David Icke when I first, started looking behind the veil many years ago. Usually you'll also see a masculine symbol nearby, usually an obelisk, right? Anyhow, so we have these men making decisions, and here they're in the dome. They're under a dome, bringing in that represents the womb, feminine power, because they're trying to create something. You can even say they're little sperms. These guys are little sperms to bring forth something, to create something. So I just wanted to, what they create, let's hope it's something good for the sake of the world. Anyhow, guys. So we're going to see if anyone needs a reading. We're just going to do a couple of readings. I'm going to check if anybody left me a message and see if we can have a little fun with some readings and have any answers that they need answered, any questions they need answered. Let's see. Just checking, guys. Oh, just checking my phone. Just seeing. Dun, 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 dun. Number 6. Okay. All right. No call-ins. No call-ins. However, someone was not able to make my live stream, a friend of mine, and she luckily has a question. Cassie, we'll just call her Cassie. So thank you, Cassie, for giving me your question in advance, because I'm going to do a reading for you right now. All right. And you guys can do this too in the future. Message me and send me a question. Just one per show, one per person. Okay, so what she wants to know is, will my homesteading business survive the economic change in America? Okay, that's a fair question. So let me just see. I have my handy Lenormand deck out. And let me see what comes up for you, Cassie. Let's see. Because she's going to be listening during the replay. Okay. 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 So, Cassie, the good news is I'm going to cut to the chase. I am seeing your business surviving um, and doing well. But there are going to be, I'm seeing a lot. I don't even know if I could say ups and downs. There's going to be a lot of meandering, um, which gives me the impression that you may be trying a lot of different things in your homesteading business um, to make things click, to make ends meet. So you might be selling, you know, uh, this and that one month, and then providing some other service the next month related to homesteading, and then trying this new product to sell, or this, I'm seeing you um, going through trying out different things within the scope of your business and seeing what sticks and what sells best and what funnels your business, what makes your business thrive. Okay, so again, I'm not necessarily up and down, but this is going to be a time where you're going to be doing a lot of trial and error, a lot of collecting of information and finding out what's best for you, the best direction to go to. Okay, you might even try out a different management style or structure for your business. Okay, but the good thing is once that's in place, um, I'm seeing your business solidifying. Okay, and um, actually having a following. Okay, a following behind your business and what you provide as a result of this. Okay, so just stick with it, hang in there, and your business will thrive. It's just going to be, you're just going to be trying a lot of different things to get there. And it can feel uncertain when you're in that phase of things and facing changes. But out of that, you'll know what works for your business and what doesn't. And you'll be able to implement a stronger business model for what you need to do. You'll actually be stronger than before. Okay, Cassie. So I hope that resonated with you. I hope you find that to be very helpful. All right, guys. So I hope you enjoyed the first episode of Uncovering the Unseen. I plan to do more of these. I like this format. Just let me know in the comments what you think. And also, if you need readings, magic services, be sure to visit my website, mochagypsymagic.com. And I'll just put it here in the comments for you guys if I can. Let's see. All right, guys. So yes, and also and reach out to me either in the comments or through my website. Any type of topic you'd like for me to explore further in this format. And I'll see you guys next time. All right, fellow gypsies, have a great evening and be blessed.